Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the new primary weapon, the Higasa. Now in this weapon series, I take a weapon, I build it out, and I test that weapon on its own merits, meaning I don't mix it with any kind of external factors that would increase weapon performance. That would be things like Warframes using abilities, pets putting statuses on enemies, things like that. I just test the weapon built out by itself, and I let the viewers make their own intelligent conclusions about adding those external things. So the Higasa is a brand new weapon that came out yesterday with the new Warframe Kumai, and that's why we're doing it. We have the top commenter of the last video, Project Sunny 309, and the first commenter of the last video, Hey Abellionis. And if we go over here, we also have a recent supporter with Eddie. So that's greatly appreciated. Thank you, Eddie. Okay, so the Higasa. Like I said, this is the new weapon that came out yesterday. It's a primary burst rifle that has an alternate fire mode that shoots a like a big charged laser. It's actually a pretty cool looking weapon too. I really like the design of it. I didn't change any of the colors, so this is how it'll look when you get it. Okay, let's go into the build here. And before we go over the mods, we're going to go over some unique and interesting things about the Higasa. So, like I said, it is a 5-round burst rifle. Aiming down sights is going to create a frontal shield that blocks projectiles. It's really nice. And it just blocks all projectiles, kind of like Garuda's shield, where it's just any projectile is just going to get blocked. Kills with the burst fire mode and damage to the frontal shield will charge the alt fire. So while you're aiming in, you're going to have this like little reticle, and it'll start like filling up. And when it's completely full, you can alternate fire, and that is your big laser charge shot. Now, that laser charge shot has some unique effects when you use this weapon's unique augment, which is Higasa Serration. So if you use Higasa Serration, your alternate fire is going to apply a random status effect to enemies hit. That's kind of cool, but not super necessary. It's just interesting that it does that. And that's about it. Oh, and also the alternate fire has an innate 2 punch through. So, which is nice, but the primary fire does not. So we're going to be putting punch through on the weapon. Okay. So now we can go over the mods. So we're going to go with Galvanized Chamber for multi-shot, Galvanized Scope for critical chance, Primed Shred for fire rate and punch through. This will give the non-charge shot, so the regular burst mode, it's going to give it 2.2 punch through. Now, Primed Shred will be the best fire rate mod for this because of the punch through, but unfortunately, Primed Shred is a login reward. And so a lot of people will not have Prime Shred. And in that case, it's okay. You can use Vial Acceleration. So Vial Acceleration, you actually get more fire rate out of. So instead of 55 from Prime Shred, you get 90. You just don't get the punch through, which does suck. But, you know, at least you get a lot more fire rate, which is really nice. So it's not horrible if you have to use Vial Acceleration. Think of it almost as more of a side grade than a downgrade. Okay, now we have Higasa Serration. This is the new mod that came out with the Higasa. This is a 450% flat damage mod. And you also get that, you know, weird effect on your alternate fire, which, whatever. You're using this more for the large flat damage. So typically in our builds, we have to go with Primary Deadhead or Primary Merciless to get large flat damage, because you need flat damage somewhere on your build. But with this weapon, we get 450, and normally Merciless or Deadhead is 360, so we actually get almost 100 more flat damage with Higasa Serration. And what that allows is it allows us to actually use other arcanes instead of just Merciless and Deadhead on every build. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit here, but if you look, we're using a different arcane. We're actually using Primary Frostbite. So, okay, so that's Higasa Serration. Next, we're going to have critical delay is going to give us critical chance. And we're going to be going with a corrosive cold setup. There are some positives about corrosive cold, and there's some negatives. So a lot of my builds I do viral, and a lot of times people are like, well, corrosive and cold is better. And I would agree, corrosive cold is better than viral, but you have to consider the opportunity cost a lot of times. Viral can be made in 2 mods, and corrosive and cold can be made in 3 mods. So you're losing a mod slot to make corrosive cold. Now, because we go primary frostbite here, it would make sense to go corrosive cold. So we kind of have to go corrosive cold here. So we go high voltage, which is the 6060 electric, and we go malignant force, which is the 6060 toxin, to make corrosive first. And then we're going to go with primed cryo rounds to make cold. We're going to make sure our cold is a little bit more weighted than that corrosive by using primed cryo instead of the 6060. And it's because cold, you want it to stack pretty quickly, so you get critical damage buffs from the cold proc itself. So if you're not producing a lot of cold procs, you're not really getting the full value of cold. So you want a lot of cold procs quickly with cold. So that's why we weight it a little bit higher here. The other reason we weight it higher is because we need to maintain our stacks of primary frostbite. So we just need consistent cold procs, which this is easy to maintain here. If you notice though, on this build, there is no critical damage mod. And that's the unfortunate thing with going corrosive cold. With going corrosive cold, you lose a mod slot because it's 3 mods to make corrosive instead of 2 to make viral. And so we have to make that critical damage up. And we make that up because of primary frostbite. This is going to give us that 120 crit damage that we would usually get from Vital Sense. And we get a little bit more crit damage with cold itself. The cold proc itself will go up to, I believe it's 110 when it's fully stacked. It's either 110 or 120. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So, we get crit damage that way through our arcane and through the cold proc itself, but you can't really look at the arcane as actually giving you crit damage. It's more of like, or giving you more crit damage, I should say. It's more like balancing it out, because our normal build would just have Vital Sense, and we would get that 120. So we get the 120 from Frostbite, and the only extra crit damage we get is from primed cryo rounds, producing cold procs, which produce crit damage buffs. Now, Frostbite's still very nice because it's a large multi-shot increase. So you still have a net gain by going corrosive and cold on this weapon particularly, because you have Higasa Serration that allows you to choose a different arcane. It's just not a gigantic net positive. It's a small net positive. All right. In the Exilus slot, there are a few options. Let me look at Exilus mods here, and we'll go over those options. So first, and probably just like the simplest, would be Stabilizer. Stabilizer is negative weapon recoil. The weapon does have a little bit of a kick. If you want to completely remove the kick, you can put Stabilizer on and it will completely remove it. However, the kick is not too bad. I'm usually pretty picky about my recoil. I don't really like recoil, but I could live with this weapon's recoil. It doesn't shoot fast enough where it's hurting you that much. But, Stabilizer is an option though. All right, the other option would be terminal velocity, projectile speed. So the burst fire mode does have travel time. It's not incredibly slow, but it's not incredibly fast either. You can make it more of a hit scan-ish weapon with terminal velocity. The negative with terminal velocity is that the Exilus slot starts as a dash. And so you actually have to former the Exilus slot, or you have to overformer the regular slots to fit terminal velocity. And then finally, the other option, and the one I like, is Vigilante Supplies. So this converts the secondary ammo into primary ammo, so you get more ammo back. Weapon doesn't really need that much more ammo, so whatever. But you get that bottom effect. You get the 5% chance to enhance critical hits from primary weapons. So what that means is about 1 out of 20 of your shots are going to be upgraded from a yellow to an orange to a red, or a red to a red plus. And this is very good on fast-firing, high multi-shot weapons. This is a pretty fast-firing, not super fast-firing, I guess like average firing. Kind of high multi-shot weapon because we're actually getting multi-shots from a few different places. So this is like an average multi-shot weapon, but we're getting more than normal sources of multi-shot because of primary frostbite. So Vigilante Supplies is pretty good on this weapon because of that. So that's the option I'm going to go with, but the other two are still valid and they're still fine. So this is how you build out the Higasa. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show this off in 10 minutes of Steel Path gameplay. Just show how it does, how it works. I'm going to be doing this on a big dumb Anaros with no Archon shards that increase weapon performance. No mods or arcanes on the Anaros that increase weapon performance. And with a pet with no sentinel weapon and no mods on the pet that increase weapon performance. That way you could just get a look at how the weapon works by itself. And then you can make your own conclusions about adding external things. You could be like, you know, maybe I'll use Nourish and I'll get viral that way. And, you know, yeah, that'll be pretty cool. All right, Void. We'll do Mott. We'll do 10 minutes here. So when I do these runs, average weapons usually get about 600 kills in 10 minutes. And some of the meta weapons we've done get about 11 to 1,200 kills in 10 minutes. So we'll see how this guy does. I won't be using any abilities except for my 3, which just gives me stagger immunity and some armor. And that's about it.
Shut down all systems. I'm sending life support capsules your way.
We're going to make sure we get some scope stacks up. And then we should be in mostly orange crits. We'll still see a little bit of yellows here and there. And you could see some reds as well, but that's going to be because of Vigilante Supplies. Whenever you get a good lineup, you can go ahead and alternate fire and just kind of blast them all away. Because of Prime Shred, our alternate fire has 4.2 punch through. It's pretty crazy. It's a little bit weird, though, the alternate fire. I feel like it might actually, like, hinder your DPS unless you shoot it at very optimal times. Like, maybe, like, right here. Yeah, right there was good. Because it does, like, kind of stop your mojo on the burst fire. Maybe like right there. There we go. That was decent. So this is a pretty cool weapon. As far as like the actual weapon and the damage goes, I'm pretty sure this is going to score pretty average. We'll see at the end how many kills we get in the 10 minutes, but I'm pretty sure this is going to score average, maybe above average. But it's interesting that it is a weapon that gives you invulnerability. That's really cool. Or frontal invulnerability, directional invulnerability. So very, very unique because of that. So I'm thinking of like certain combos on certain Warframes that this might pair really nice with. The damage itself, it's good. It'll kill Steel Path enemies. It's just that there's going to be a lot of other weapons. I feel like the Torrid's going to... Well, I know the Torrid's going to kill quicker than this guy. I'm also playing this in a very ideal situation, which is in a kind of like a hallway setting that allows me to punch through and hit multiple targets. Not every tile set you play is going to be a linear area. We are having a little bit of life support issues, which would mean that this is not killing as quick as some of the really good weapons we've tested. Some of the really good weapons we've tested don't have any life support issues because they kill so quickly that they farm the yellow life supports extremely quickly. Like, we're killing decently quickly. It's just not, we're not killing like Torrid Incarnate or Bursted Incarnate levels of speed. Of course, this is without externals. You know, you could think of all different kinds of externals that would make this kill quicker. Right, like Roar's multiplicative damage buff would make this kill quicker. Nourish giving it viral as well as having everything else on it would make it kill quicker. If you're playing Wisp, that basically gives herself a fire rate buff, this will kill quicker. Let's see how it does against Misery. I'm pretty sure this is going to be pretty average against Misery. But I think let's try to get this charge shot into him. Yeah, charge shot did pretty decent. Where'd Misery go? He's in that pack somewhere. Let's get those little shield drones out of here. Let's give him a charge shot. The charge shot actually, surprisingly, doesn't do that great against him. I'd almost prefer burst fire here. I thought it might be a 1 or a 2 shot weapon against the Acolyte at least. Oh, we have Misery. That's what I was like. Why are all like the dudes flying away? Because Misery's doing his weird little ability. Okay, let's hit. Yeah, let's hit a couple life supports here. We'll just probably hit 3 and completely top off. That's not necessarily a good sign. That could mean that this is more on the average side instead of above average.
Extraction is available if you need it.
Something to consider about Primary Frostbite as well is that your stacks will completely go away all at the same time, which does suck because you'll go from doing a lot of damage to pretty poor damage until you stack it back up, which isn't too bad. You know, we have a lot of multi-shot and stuff, but just consider it that you may go from doing a lot of damage to doing pretty shitty damage. Now we're in more of a normal setting here, where it's not just the hallway, so enemies are a little bit more spread out. You know, if you're alternate fire with the Higasa Serration, if it produces blast as the random element, like that could be really good. I think that's sometimes when we see the explosions, it could just be because of like a blast proc being produced somewhere. That's probably the best thing that it could produce. The charge fire is the blast. But of course, it's random. You don't really get to choose, do you? The other way to build this weapon is a little bit unfortunate. So the other way to build this weapon is to go viral and then just to not use Higasa Serration and build it out as a traditional assault rifle with primary deadhead. But I think Higasa Serration is worth it. It just limits you on mods because you kind of want to go Corrosive Cold with it. And Corrosive Cold is 3 mod slots, so you don't have room for fun things like Hunter Munitions or Bladed Rounds or any of those. I mean, damn, you don't even have enough room for your regular crit damage mod. You know, you're making up for it with the arcane and with the cold procs, but and you definitely want to keep scope on. You definitely want to keep galvanized scope on. Just because without galvanized scope, you're only at like a 70% crit chance, which means all of the crit damage is basically wasted on 30% of your shots, which really sucks. So you need to be hitting the 100% mark. You go well above the 100% mark. You're almost at 200% with scope, but without it, you're like almost wasting 30% of your shots. That charge shot did pretty good on that Acolyte. I don't know. Maybe I just had issues with Misery there.
Look at them. They come to this place when they know.
Right, we got 15 more seconds, and then we'll see what the kill count is. Again, average weapons are going to be closer to that 600 kills in 10 minutes, and meta weapons, really meta weapons, like the turret and things, are going to be like 11 to 1200 kills. I'm going to guess... Here, we're at 10 minutes. We're at 10 minutes. I'm going to stop shooting. I'm going to guess this weapon is going to be, let me say 700. I'm going to say 700. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Oh, I was wrong. It's 500. Even less than 500, really. 496. Oof. That's hard times. That is hard times. So, not a very good weapon, unfortunately. It's got the unique thing where you get the shield. So it has utility. It has utility. The actual damage, though, is pretty lackluster. Oh, that hurts. That means it's below average. This is a below average weapon.
Extraction is your best option.
That's unfortunate. You know, as far as the utility of it, I think it's still worth getting. It's still worth building out. There's probably some build out there for a Warframe that just wants a little bit of, you know, immunity from damage. Maybe like a caster Warframe that doesn't actually care about shooting the weapon. They just can kind of use it as a shield. That maybe I'm trying to come up with some issues here with or some situations where it could be good. So that was the build for the Higasa. If you guys liked the video, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right.